Welcome to Beyond My Crisis. I'm your host, Ron Rosnick.
And I'm Vivian Gaspard.
And today we're talking about tax strategies for the small business owner.
Kendal Ludden is here with us today. Kendal is a holistic CPA, a tax attorney, and an IRS debt negotiation expert. Mr. Ludden specializes in maximizing tax refunds for divorced entrepreneurs.
Is it true, Kendall, that you can reduce your tax liability by starting a business?
Yes, Ron. I think it's really important to start a business because it's the last great tax shelter that there is. The government has recently limited state and local and real estate tax deductions, and by raising the standard deduction, the benefits of home ownership aren't really as good as they used to be, but starting a business, you can write a lot of different things off.
What about for everyone who doesn't see themselves as a business owner? How would you recommend that course?
Just if you have a hobby or something you enjoy, then you can turn that into a business and try and produce revenue from that. And then as a result, you're able to deduct your expenses for the things that you would be doing anyway, traveling and phone and things like that.
So what's the difference between personal taxes and business taxes?
With a personal tax, what happens is you earn income and first you pay taxes and then you get to spend your money. When you have a business, you can spend your money and then pay taxes. So obviously, you pay a lower tax when you have a business.
How much does that really mean to a family, dollars and cents wise, if they do this action?
It really depends on your tax bracket and what you're writing off, but people can see between 15 and even 50% of their expenses being written off.
What's really a write-off for our viewers?
Basically, a write-off is just an ordinary and necessary business expense that you're incurring in order to generate revenue. So, your travel, your phone, your car, a home office, you can do various different things you can write off if you have a business.
And so if someone's a W-2 wage earner and they seek to do what you're suggesting is start a business, and can they do something like an Airbnb where they rent out a room in their house for a certain number of weeks or months a year?
The ability to deduct more of your home and your insurance and electric bills and stuff like that, they can all be deductible when you have a business like that.
That's great. So what's the biggest problem a new business owner may face?
I think really it's just structuring the business. You want to make sure you have it structured properly from the very beginning.
What does that mean, structuring?
Just the way it's taxed. Typically the IRS actually looks at Schedule Cs or sole proprietorships. So I recommend a business structure, usually a partnership or an S corporation, but partnership is just much more flexible when you have.
So basically, if you want to start a small business, you would have to go onto the state website and create an LLC or some type of business entity?
Yes, correct. That's the starting point. And even though I'm in New Jersey, I actually typically recommend people start a business in Florida, just because New Jersey has some really arcane laws and regulations with businesses. And to me, New York, New Jersey, California are all states that aren't really favorable to business or have high expenses.
So there's no law that requires you to start a business in the state you live in?
No, that's correct. It's kind of that you can be born in anywhere in the U.S. and you're still a U.S. citizen. You just really, the state you start in is kind of just where you are. But
so you're kind of giving birth to a business.
Correct, yes.
So even starting a business, the paperwork, what do you have to do on the web, and I think it's intimidating for an average person who's been a W-2 employee for years and years. They don't know anything about small business entrepreneurship. What advice could you give a new person?
I typically do it for them. I register it and start it, and the only thing you need in Florida is a registered agent, and I have an office in there so that if anybody wants to sue you, they have to have the ability to do that in the state you're in. So you can research it yourself and do it yourself. It's done online. It's relatively easy, but as I said, I recommend a professional just so you're starting it and making sure the expenses are all deductible and things like that.
Right.
So there's so many people, like we're talking, if a W-2 wage earner, a regular teacher concept, somebody who just makes a salary, and they're saying, okay, so if I can't use my house as much, or I'd like to save money, does this savings in taxes could translate to refunds or bigger refunds?
Yeah, well, what happens is when your income gets all added together, it comes out to only one number, and that's what you pay tax on. So typically when you do start a business, your expenses generally exceed your income, and that's really where the tax benefit comes from, because you can reduce your income from other sources by using a business.
If I earn $500 in a year and I spend $5,000, is that a legitimate expense for the IRS?
You just really have to show that you're trying to produce business. I had actually dealt with an artist, and she was exhibiting her art in art galleries and stuff like that. So it wasn't just like she was just painting and hoping to make money. She was legitimately trying to show that she was trying to make a profit. And eventually it's great because the cash flow can actually catch up later. So you get the tax deductions early on, and then later when the income starts producing income, it works out.
Are you allowed to have a certain number of years that you could show losses to say, look, sometimes businesses can take several years for it to get off the ground and be profitable? Does the government understand that concept?
Yeah, the government gives you a way out that if you make money in 2 out of 5 years, then by default you're not a business if you're profitable. But just because you lose money all the time doesn't mean you don't have a business. The only time you really have a problem is, as I said, if it's a hobby type business where it's, you're painting art because you enjoy art, then the IRS will question that a lot more. But the Airbnb or other businesses that aren't really hobby related, then there's no real questions as long as you're
dog sitting or taking care of people's animals. Or there's so many different ways that you can have sorts of income that people don't think about. Babysitting. I mean, even it doesn't matter if you're an adult. There's still babysitting is still a real way to make money. There's so many different types of income generating side work that you can do, and all these are legitimate, you're saying?
Yeah, as long as I said, you're producing an income and have a realistic sense of making a profit, and then you can deduct all your, with the babysitting, your phone, your car, and things
selling
like that.
Selling on eBay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Craigslist,
yes.
find stuff for other people to sell, not just your own stuff. There's
Correct.
so many different things you can do.
Yes.
Right. So we're going to be right back with some really incredible tax saving tips that Kendal's going to show us. Welcome back to Beyond My Crisis. We're here with Kendal Ludden talking about taxes for a small business.
And if you haven't started a small business yet, and you think you understand that you really should to help your family's tax burden, Kendal, what kind of business should someone start? Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I kind of like my own business. I mean, anybody who has any interest in taxes, I have a tax school online that kind of teaches you the basics. I mean, the basics in taxes is look at life-changing events like people going to college or having a baby or getting married and just revolve around that. So I have a school that teaches you online how to go through all the segments of the return and learn various different things.
How long is that course online?
It ends up being about 70 hours. It's actually, you can get University of Phoenix college credits by taking it. And it just kind of breaks everything down into tax, what realm of what a dependent is and exemptions and college and stuff like that. So it really does go through that.
So you get a certification when you completed that course?
Yeah, you become an IRS tax preparer. It's an annual thing, so you actually do have to take updates every year, but you are certified with the IRS in order to take taxes.
And you would be their mentor too.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that in itself is worth it because you have worked for the IRS. You have 30 years of experience.
Correct. Yeah. So what I really try and do is have people almost create their own clientele, and then I just supervise them and I help them if they have any questions and stuff like that.
And you'll review it to make sure the taxes
Correct.
are done perfectly.
Yeah. So I review the returns. So you have a CPA and a tax attorney that's overseeing you and reviewing your returns.
And what is going to make a business successful today?
Just in general, to be successful, you really have to do something you love. Because if you're doing something that you don't love, you're going to hate it. That's what most people do in their jobs. And they, when you work at a job, you get paid probably just enough not to leave, and you do just enough not to get fired. Whereas if you have your own business and you're doing something you love, you're going to be passionate about it, and the revenue will, believe it or not, probably just flow from it just because you're doing it, and people will see that you like what you're doing. So.
And are there people that they can consult to figure out what kind of business they would love and like that would fit in this guidelines of creating a successful?
I try and kind of work with people on that when they come and help them try and decide what type of business it is that they might.
So you'll
might
guide
like.
them.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and I give them, if they start their own business, I guide them. I give them advice. I show them what the benefits are to running a business, that you can deduct your expenses as we discussed and things like that, and produce cash flow. When I used to work for somebody else in the city before I was on my own, my business would always lose money because I'm able to deduct all kinds of expenses that I couldn't. So I have money coming in, revenue, but I'm able to deduct all my other expenses, so it ends up producing cash flow.
I hope the IRS isn't watching this show.
So what are the benefits to running the business tax-wise? Why choose the business that you have the tax school advisory business for?
Well, the tax school advisory would just be something to do. Just businesses in general, you can deduct things. So that's really, if a business ends up losing money, most people are just guesstimate probably about a 25% tax bracket. Therefore, that means if you spend $1,000, you're going to save $250 in taxes. So it's a less spending coming out of your pocket when you're able to deduct expenses.
Now, in really simple terms, when you're saying reduce tax burdens, people always just look at one thing: how much taxes they have to pay out, and how is it to get a better likelihood of a refund. So does that help in the possibility of getting refunds or bigger refunds?
It definitely helps with the possibility of getting refunds, because if your business loses money, what I actually encourage people is you can claim more exemptions on your W-4 as an employee. Most people think exemptions are kids, and they only claim their kids, but it really not. An exemption on your W-4 is really about a $4,000 tax deduction. So if you have a business that's going to lose $4,000, you can increase your exemptions where you work, and your paycheck will go up.
Right, but that doesn't exclude the liability that you may have at the end of the year. You may have to pay if you have more deductions in the front end.
Yeah, well, if you have more deductions, then you'll get more money back. Whereas if you wanted to,
Right.
You can adjust your W-4 withholding so you get a bigger paycheck, and then you don't get a refund. To me, people come to me and they say, I got the best accountant in the world. They got me a $5,000 refund. And I'll say, no, your accountant made you pay $100 every week too much in taxes, and you get it back a year later without interest. So getting a refund is not
Interest,
necessarily.
Right, so they're not able to leverage their money.
Correct, yes.
Billionaires and millionaires leverage their own money to build their wealth. So you're creating wealth strategies of the rich and famous then.
Yeah, it's a time value of money concept of when you pay your taxes.
Right. So we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to learn about the importance of a holistic accounting in your tax preparation.
If you're not happy with your life and you want to have the happiness, love, success, and abundance you deserve, then my book, The Prison Effect, is for you. And there's affirmations too that you can say over and over that help to bring it into the subconscious mind. You can start to squish those down by building up the type of esteem you want to have. I am giving a free, wonderful gift of 8 full meditations if people would like to order. Go to ElenaChapmanLife.com now.
Welcome back to Beyond My Crisis. We're here with Kendal Ludden, and we're going to be talking about some significant, important philosophies of accounting and tax preparation.
Kendal, what's the difference between you and another tax preparer?
Most of the tax preparers do things after the fact. You come in with your documents, and they just are able to put things into the computer, and what's done is done. I really try and go holistically and look at the whole picture, try and give advice, starting businesses and things like that. I also adapt other strategies. When you come in with your old accountant, I look at what they do and just able to work off of that and come up with ideas based upon that.
So why is it important that an accountant should take a holistic approach?
It's just because if you just do things and then prepare a tax return, there's no real benefit to it. Whereas if you look at things and do planning in the future for, kids going to college or the birth of a child and, saving for kids and stuff like that, you really just need to look at everything.
So basically, you're having a conversation with your client about their life, their lifestyle, their goals, their future, and you tailor your instruction to what's going to best suit them for tax
Correct.
purposes.
Like all my tax planning is just really individual. Like what I tell one person, you can't just necessarily, tell everybody. The only thing you really tell everybody is to start a business, but then you have to work with that business as to, how to do it. So I do coaching along the way and stuff like that. I'm constantly in touch with my clients. It's not come in once a year, for an hour and be done like, most other places.
Yeah, I've used accountants before, and basically they email me a packet that they said, here, just put your information in here, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is, they call that same as last year, and what I tell people, like my preparers in particular, I tell them that Sally's a good girl, but she's not always right, because things always change, so you have to be able to adapt and work with the changes of the clients and what they want to do in the future and future goals.
So what are the most common aspects that other accountants overlook that you've noticed that someone can bring in to either maximize their tax refunds or lower their tax burden?
I'm really, as I said, we've said this numerous times, but really keen on starting a business. And then I try and help people too. Like, when you have a business, you can do one of two things with your money. You can spend it or you can save it. But if you have a business, you could set up pension plans and things like that in order to save your money. I'm looking to do more of like financial advisory services in the very near future too, where I help people, make investment decisions and stuff like that.
So when you're saying investment decisions, can you just give me an idea of how someone who's a tax preparer, and of course your experience in your other realms, such as being a tax accountant and tax attorney, how do you provide advisory services?
Well, I do subscribe to about the top 5 financial publishers, and I love just reading the material and learning about new stocks and their stock picks and stuff like that. So I have that knowledge, and that's how I can help people. To me, there's like 3 main investment branches between stocks, bonds, and gold. So you can kind of look at what's current for the time and the best investment to do.
And
at that time.
cryptocurrencies are not in the financial pyramid right now?
I would put that under like a gold, like a commodity standards. Like it's kind of the anti-gold. A lot of the gold bugs are looking at that. I mean, to me, cryptocurrencies is really the technology. Finding the companies to do it. And, I kind of, when I look at investments, I look at like a pick and shovel type investment. Like Levi's jeans came about because of the gold rush. People were buying Levi's, and, that's still around today. So like with the cryptocurrencies, you can look at some of the computer companies, that chip companies, and a company like NVIDIA actually skyrocketed for cryptocurrencies and recently corrected.
Because they know how to process it for the Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're doing
security
they're doing the chips. NVIDIA's doing driverless cars and things like that.
So smart. That really is smart to parlay the people who are employing cryptocurrencies and invest in those companies that are going to be exploding in the future.
Yeah, because with these cryptocurrencies, I have a service that recommends them, and you put $100 in each one, and maybe it comes to a lot. But if you're looking at the picks and shovel and the people that are going to make money no matter what cryptocurrency succeeds, that's really the great avenue.
They'll be using that technology.
Well, but a lot of Americans are still very much suffering. Unfortunately, just a lot of wage earners find themselves, as they have unfortunately mentioned, 1 or 2 paychecks away from losing their homes potentially. So for a lot of those Americans, what would you say, and of course if they're also looking at not just at raising children, that perhaps they're caregivers now for their parents, their elderly, especially as the baby boomers. Is there 1 or 2 nuggets that you might be able to find that are tax write-offs in that direction?
Well, if your parents, you're supporting them and they're not having any income, they can also be your dependents too, and there's dependent credits and stuff like that. So that's why I try and look at everything, the entire picture of what you're doing and how you're operating.
And you'll do a free review of someo's taxes initially?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's what I do. I go through and I see what they're doing, and I see the tax savings ideas, and I love it when the small business owner comes in with a Schedule C, because I can tell them, A, you can save tens of thousands of dollars, and B, you could do it at a lot less risk with the IRS and stuff like that. So I think that's really important.
Wow, that's great. We're going to be right back after this brief message, and we're going to learn about what financial freedom is and how you can attain it with Kendal Ludden.
Roughly half of Americans are concerned about their financial well-being. Nearly a third of Americans have less than $10,000 in savings. Last year, 77% of taxpayers believe they benefited from using a professional tax preparer. Are you worried about your financial situation? It only takes one snowflake to cause an avalanche. Don't let taxes sneak up on you this season. Kendal Ludden CPA, tax preparer and refund strategist.
Welcome back to Beyond My Crisis. We're here with Kendal Ludden.
Kendal, who should you pay first when all your bills come in?
It's a basic financial philosophy that you really need to be paying yourself first.
What does that mean?
When the money comes in, you should actually take 10% of your income at least and just put it on the side, and that's for later, for financial freedom, so that your money works for you. You're not always working for your money.
But what if people say, I just don't even have enough money for the utility bill or your car payment?
There's definitely ways you can figure out a way to spend less money, because you really need to save for yourself, because unfortunately most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and the only way to avoid that is to have a savings, to have an emergency fund, and to have money working for you so you don't have to work for money.
If you can't save 10%, then stop doing
these. Yeah, so you can always find something that you can, cut back on in order to make sure that you have, extra money to save.
Kendall, that's really great that somebody with such a brilliant mind and the way you've already shared that you look at taxes and how you help families in a holistic basis. So when someone as intelligent as you are is now finding these really great strategies and analyses, are you sharing them with the general public? How do you do that?
Yeah, I have a website and an email list that I send to people that would go through and on a weekly or monthly basis look at the stocks, bonds, and gold, and come up to a conclusion for what to do that week. Or even I actually do recommend sometimes when people get a little afraid of shorting or selling something that they don't own. So we kind of go through that procedure and teach people how to do that.
Even investing, like covered calls.
Correct. Yes.
So forth.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Really.
And you can find that information on my website.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're really a true wealth of information.
So, with all of this brilliant tax planning advice, investment planning advice, the goal that I would say for people to achieve is something called financial freedom.
Correct.
What is financial freedom?
Well, financial freedom is basically when your passive income exceeds your expenses. When you're out there working, you're just earning enough to get by. What has to happen is you have to have the investments or the savings so that your passive income that you no longer have to work for exceeds your expenses. Then you can do anything you want. I mean, if your passive income is high enough, you could travel the world and do whatever you want. So it's really a mindset of having the savings and then the ability to use that in the future.
How can we generate passive income to achieve financial freedom so it could pay for our rent or mortgage, right? Our food, our insurance, our basic monthly costs, not our luxury costs like going out and partying or going to a Broadway show or doing that, but just basic costs. How does that?
That's why it's really crucial to pay yourself first. When you pay yourself first, if you can do 10%, I mean, China, they save 30% of their income. In the US, they save like nothing. And that's why in the future, China is going to become so dominant because they have a large population and they have a different mindset. It's really about the mindset of paying yourself first and then using those funds to make more money, creating a business that's going to produce a cash flow for you, and presumably having other people work in that business. That's the beauty of it, leveraging other people to help you.
That's really inspirational too. Is there anything else that you think is crucial to bring inspiration to the people that have been struggling with their finances over the years?
You really have to change your mind. It's all really what you think is kind of what you get. If you think your bills are too much, they probably are. If you think you can save, you definitely can. So it really starts with inside your mind of kind of creating a millionaire type mindset.
Great. With a mentor, a coach, a planner, it's much easier to achieve that financial freedom.
Correct. Something I do, some of my business is lower income taxpayers, and what I actually have my preparers do is I say, hey, you got a refund of $5,000. If you stick that into an IRA, you still get money in your pocket because you get tax deductions for it. So that's something I really impress upon people is when you get a tax refund, to pay it off. We had mentioned a W-4. I mean, people usually get a large tax refund and then they pay off their credit cards. Well, if they could change their withholdings at work and pay their credit cards with the increase in their paycheck, then they can earn 20 or 25% on their money.
Rather than paying 9 to 18% on their monthly credit card.
Correct. So like as I said, you come to me, and to me a refund is a bad thing because you overpaid your taxes. So you want to structure your tax payments so that the cash flow is, if you end up owing a little bit, it's not a bad thing as long as you know you're going to owe it.
So one of the best takeaways that I'm hearing from all this information that you've shared with us is that you shouldn't just wait till just before tax time to speak with someone like you.
No.
Preferably you. You should really speak with you as soon as possible so you could guide your actions throughout the year to prepare on how to best handle. I mean, everything from changing your W-2 withholdings to how do you start that business, even if it's selling things on eBay or doing Airbnb or doing a real side business that you might enjoy.
Correct. I think the most important thing with my new clients is I actually offer them the plan for the current year. So when you come to me, not only are you getting the service of preparing the return, you almost get 3 years worth or 4 years worth of service because I'll look at your prior years, I'll look at your current years, and we'll look at the future. So I offer both, past, present, and future, tax planning.
And that is a holistic approach to financial planning. Thank you very much.
But I got to say, the one thing I really enjoyed about Kendall is I'm still stuck on the fact that you found a divorced couple who were divorced for years, by the way, not freshly divorced, well over $30,000 in refunds after just looking at both of their past 3 years.
Yes.
Imagine if everyone went to you for that, how much more money they could save
That's found
or
money.
pay down
Yeah.
their credit card debt.
Correct.
You found
Sorry,
them a
but
little,
I really
Yeah.
have to go back to that. That was
Yeah.
incredible.
You're like the
Genius.
leprechaun that helps people find their little pot of gold.
I hope. I really do.
Yeah.
Quite genius.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you
being
so much
here.
for all this
You're
great information, Kendall. It was fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Beyond My Crisis. And we hope that you will get guidance to your financial freedom. And let us know as you achieve that. We want to hear from you.